We have a very special guest today. We are so lucky to have Amy Lacey here, the founder of Cauliflower Foods. She turned her mess into a message. And yes, everyone, she is the creator of the cauliflower pizza crust. She's an author. She turned her startup business into a multi-million dollar success story. She's a health advocate and has a passion for giving back. Welcome, Amy, to the new mid.
Thank you. That was an awesome intro. Thank you.
Well, your
Really
story
great.
is absolutely amazing. And I have to say, you give us midlife women so much hope. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, it's almost 11 years ago now, I developed a blood clot, landed in the hospital, almost died. Turned out that I had autoimmune. So I was 40 years old. I had just had my third child. I don't know if something triggered with having a late pregnancy. Had my third child, and my world turned upside down. So quickly, after being on numerous different medications, I decided that I needed to take my health into my own hands because, after all, physicians, they have limited time to spend with you and really figure out what's going on. So the easy answer to that is to put you on medication, and the side effects of those medications aren't always that great. So I was going through early menopause. I had a baby. Well, he wasn't quite a baby. He was about almost 2 years old. I developed these blood clots. I was diagnosed with autoimmune. I was unable to get out of bed. I got really depressed, was put on four different medications: steroids, which don't allow you to sleep. So that caused a lot of the depression. Wellbutrin for depression, Plaquenil, which is the drug that you've heard a lot about for COVID, was for my autoimmune. And then I was on some another medication for Sjogren's, which is also an autoimmune. So just and Coumadin. So I forgot there's a fifth drug there, Coumadin, for the
Oh my
blood clot.
gosh.
So it was horrible. Here I am, this new mom of my third child. My husband's very busy with his business, and our world is turned upside down. And that's when I started really realizing that health is wealth, and that I needed to take my health into my own hands and really figure out what was going on with me. And that's when this whole thing started. And it's been an exciting journey. And it certainly hasn't been easy, but it's been very rewarding. And I've been able to help a lot of people figure out what they're going through my journey and through other people's journeys.
Well, that's so important because I have to tell you, I know a lot of midlife women who have autoimmune disease, and either one, they're silent about it and they suffer in silence and they go on all these medications, or two, they just hope it, I guess it kind of is the same way about being silent and they're just in pain and then they go on medication, but they don't really think about it as a nutritional part. So it's interesting that you flipped the switch on that and you realized how important that was. How did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I grew up pretty poor, and I ate. My diet wasn't, nobody was instilling healthy habits for me early on. So I ate a lot of rice cereal, biscuits and gravy, and food like that, cereal, cold cereal. And so I didn't have those great habits, but I knew that the way I grew up, I didn't want my kids to grow up. So I made them healthy breakfast and so forth. But what I didn't know is that I had a gluten and grain intolerance. So I realized once I did the elimination diet and slowly added foods in, what was hurting my body and what my body was causing inflammation, and my body was attacking itself. So I cut out all grains, I cut out the white sugar, I cut out alcohol, all the fun things I cut out. And I'm like, I was missing them. But I realized that there's got to be ways to have your favorite foods, but just a healthier version of them. So I started doing some research online and I found a cauliflower pizza recipe. And mind you, nothing was on the market then. Just a head of cauliflower was in the grocery store. That was it. And I didn't use cauliflower. It wasn't a vegetable I liked. I tell this story all the time, but it's like the vegetable that's the last man standing in a veggie tray at a party. You know, nobody ever eats it. And it wasn't something that I was excited about playing around with, but we had this tradition because I am a mom of three kids, and we had Friday night family fun night pizza and games. And when I got really sick and I wasn't really able to function for 9 months, we stopped doing that. And that was like the first thing I wanted to do was bring back some normalcy to the kids and bring that fun family fun night. So I was trying to find a pizza that I could serve that I could eat alongside of them and not make it awkward or anything. And so I found this recipe and I made it. It was an epic failure multiple times. I finally perfected it. My kids loved it, which was shocking to me because one of them is just like, if you say vegetable, he runs. He's like anti vegetables. But I was able to hide it. And that's the beautiful thing about cauliflower is that it's so bland, it'll take on any flavors. And so I started to get that was kind of the start of my process of getting really healthy. I realized I needed to invest in myself. So I took some classes. I took Martha Beck's life coaching, really dove into some trauma that I had as a child that might be surfacing back up now that I have kids, might be manifesting itself in an illness, which I thought was could be very real. I still believe that's how it all happened, how it just one day started, because one day I was fine and the next day I couldn't get out of bed. It was very weird. Um, and then also, food can be medicine. You don't have to be on all those medications. Now, I'm not saying that everybody with autoimmune should be on medication because that's not the case. But for me, I can control it very well with diet. And if I'm, there are times where I'm not perfect and I'll have inflammation and I can see it right away. And then I just get right back on track again. There have been times where I've been really stressed and not sleeping, and I've had to go back on steroids. So I'm not saying I've never taken any medications since I discovered this, but I'm not on 5 medications daily, which has been tremendous for me. And so going back to that cauliflower pizza crust, I also did zucchini noodles instead of white pasta. We eat a lot of pasta. My kids were little, and I started taking the zucchini noodles before they were in the grocery store and making them. We call them zoodles, and eating a lot of zoodles. So a friend of mine that was in the life and health coaching program with me said, "Hey, we should take this to farmers market." And I thought, oh, that'd be a fun little family business. So we took it to farmers market and we did the zoodles and the cauliflower pizza crust, and it was a huge hit. And people were asking me for it before farmers market even happened. And that's kind of how the journey started.
Which is incredible. But it all started though from you realizing that you had to take your health in your own hands and you had to figure
Yeah.
out for you what worked.
Yeah, well, the steroids were making me literally crazy. No joke about it. I'm sure it was a combo of so here's what happened. I started going through menopause, not realizing why, and here I am having a hot flash right now. I don't usually have them anymore. I'm over it, but I'm having one with you. We were talking about it. My body's like, okay. Um, yeah. So what happened was I had been on the hormone patch, which so many women that are going through menopause will be put on hormones. And as soon as I got the blood clot, we're like, nope, can't take any patches. So I couldn't take hormones anymore, which I think was kind of balancing me out a little. Plus the combination of steroids, I had a lot of rashing, a lot of inflammation. So the doctor was trying to take care of that immediately, and steroids works quick. And so I wasn't sleeping. So you talk about raging menopause, um, mass amounts of steroids, like shots of steroids, and then not sleeping. There's a reason why in prisons they do sleep deprivation as a form of torture. It literally makes you crazy. So I became kind of this crazy person. and that wasn't healthy for my family. So immediately I recognized it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go see whoever I can about how to balance this. So I met with a guy named Rob Wolf who wrote the Paleo Solution, and he had created a gym in Northern California where I live called CrossFit. It's the first CrossFit gym
Uh-huh.
in that area. And so he was also talking a lot about diet and how it can really control your hormones. And so I went to him, and he was like, let's do an elimination diet, but I think you're going to have to cut out grains and sugar indefinitely. Now, fast forward, he's doing a lot with the keto diet, which I've had the blessing through Cauliflower Foods to be a big part of the keto experience. I've spoke at KetoCon, I've been there, I've talked to a lot of the experts about keto, and we have so many new products now that are natural sugars like monk fruit and things like that we can use in place of white sugar and still enjoy, cinnamon rolls or brownies and things like that. And then the grain free has been, I mean, there's so many choices there as well. There's psyllium husk, there's almond flour, there's just amazing coconut flour. There's amazing opportunities there as well that weren't did not exist when I was trying to do this. So I felt like the Cauliflower Foods was kind of it was the beginning where none of this other stuff was out there. There was Udis, but Udis was causing me to have inflammation. It was gluten free. There was a lot of gluten free products, but gluten free is not always good for you. So I felt like we had to come up with our options from scratch, and we helped a lot of people. There were a lot of diabetics had stopped eating pizza that could eat pizza again. And so when we launched in 2016, I started researching in 2015. I actually started eating it myself in 2013. Um, and so, you know, through that, through like just playing with it and serving it to people and figuring out what we can do, we realized we could replace bread, and we could have sandwich thins basically. We could do pizzas, we could do toast, we could do tortillas, we could do taco shells, all my favorite foods. I love pizza, I love Mexican food. Even sushi, which is another favorite of mine, we could use the cauliflower rice in place of regular rice. And if we put enough, like, enough things in it, you can disguise it and people can't tell the difference. So it became a big deal in my own personal life, but then I started seeing how it was helping other people. And we used this method called Story Brand in 2017. Donald Miller created Story Brand. I went to Nashville, took his course, came back and used his techniques on how to share other people's story by using my product, but not just make it all about me or my product. And one particular story we shared went viral, and our business took off online. And that's how Cauliflower Foods started. And that was January of 2017.
Well, that is exciting. And it's so wonderful to hear your story and how it all evolved. And I understand that you married a Kiwi, a New Zealand gentleman. And before, before, before you did Cauliflower Foods, you had done a business with your brother in law, I believe. So this wasn't your first hit at being an entrepreneur. So, what would you say that taking from that first business helped you with Cauliflower Foods and then helped propel you to the success that you are today?
Yeah, so when I got sick, I sold that business, and it was actually my husband's cousin that I
Okay.
went into business with. But when I started that business, there it was a lot of breaking through fear. So I literally cold called podiatrist. It was a medical laser business that I took three lasers, not just little lasers. These are like $90,000 lasers that we took to New Zealand. We had to get the licensing in another country, international licensing. So there was a lot to it, but I needed to find a partner over there that was a podiatrist that could really support the business. So I found an owner of a chain of podiatry clinics called Foot Mechanics, and the it was there was a lot of fear because here I am calling this
Mhm.
person in another country, almost cold calling them. Why are they going to trust me? They did. They opened the door. I went over there. I was able to demo it. We became partners. And I think I learned so much from that. And again, it was before I got sick. And once I got, I had to sell that business. And then I took this time to get myself better again. But I think what I took into Cauliflower Foods is that if I can get lasers in the United States into New Zealand and help 4 million, potentially 4 million people, that was the population back then, um, cure onychomycosis a natural way where they weren't going to damage any of their organs by taking a medication that is very damaging. And we had this technology that was developed in my hometown. I know the man that developed it is just phenomenal and his reasonings for it. If I can do that, I can do anything. And so it gave me the courage and the confidence to move forward with Cauliflower Foods. Once I realized at Farmers Market that this is a hit and we were selling out before Farmers Market even came and there was nothing on the market like it, but it was helping so many people, I think I had that confidence from the New Zealand laser business. So I don't know how you got that information. A lot of people don't know that. There's only a limited amount of time, and there's so many nuggets in Cauliflower Foods and how it came about and what I love to share with people that I hope that they'll put into their own business or their own life, that I rarely ever get to that point to talk about the New Zealand business. But yeah, that was a fun journey and I learned a lot, and I learned about how to partner with somebody, but I learned a lot about the licensing and writing a business plan. My laser business plan was like 400 pages long. My husband and I did it together. Then my cauliflower one was like 10 pages long. And the laser business was considered a cosmetic procedure over there, and it was $1,000 a treatment, and so it was good money, but there was a lot of overhead there. Whereas the cauliflower business online and e-commerce, just sky's the limit. I mean, it just grew and grew, and the biggest thing up was production, and we were able to really dial that in and get our production down and really connect with our customers. And so using StoryBrand and telling our stories, it grew so fast that we literally were selling a pizza crust every 6 seconds online.
That's
It's
incredible.
crazy.
That is crazy. Well, is this part of you talk about when you're doing a business, you talk about 5 foundational truths that we should know. Is this part of the 5 foundational truths for running a business?
So I talk about the 5 P's of my business. And because people say to me, how did you go from negative, because when I was starting the business and at Farmers Market, we were negative 269,000. That's what we ended that year at. I drained our savings account. And a lot of people say, well, what was that for? It was packaging. I had an employee. I mean, there was a lot of mistakes in that negative 269,000, a website, a couple websites, and so on. To within 24 months, we were doing over 20 million
Wow.
online. So that's a huge jump. And people say, well, how in the world did you do that? And this is high level, but yet it's not, right? There's a lot of details in this. And I talk about the 5 P's that you have to have, I think, to scale and scale in a big way like we did. One is passion. Like you've got to find something that you're really passionate about. I was super passionate about sharing the products because I knew what they were doing for me and what they were doing for other people. I knew that now diabetics could eat pizza again. I knew that my products were helping me enjoy time with my family again, but were not causing inflammation. And I knew that they were like comfort food again, right? I grew up on comfort food. So I was really passionate about the ingredient profile. The product, making sure that the product stays super authentic, whatever that looks like, whether you're in a service based or a product based. And when I tell this story, when I talk about product, early on in 2017, I was at the Las Vegas Pizza Expo, and a um, co-packer came up to me. He makes a lot of the brands that are out there, including several cauliflower brands. And he came up to me and he said, and by now on the market there was two brands of cauliflower pizza crust, and he said, I can make yours for about one third the cost. You're using real cauliflower, aren't you? And I said, yes, we're using fresh cauliflower. We have cauliflower fields right next to our plant. Literally comes on over and we use the fresh cauliflower, including the stems and leaves. And he said, well, what if we switch that to a powdered cauliflower and we add a few fillers? I can get your costs down to minimal and you will make a lot more money. And that sounded exciting because at the time, my pizza crust was costing me almost $7 pizza crust to sell. Like people think that I was charging this and making all this money, but it was costing me a lot of money to make it. And so I thought, well, that sounds really appealing. And then I had a meeting with him and I tasted the product. And more importantly, I looked at what the fillers were and I realized, no way will my body let me eat this. Like I am going to have a ton of inflammation. I'm going to have to lie to people. And while the dollar signs seem really appealing and I have a lot of momentum and a lot of customers, I'm not going to be authentic. So I said no to that opportunity. Now, the person that the product that is being co-packed by them is doing phenomenal. Like she's probably making a ton of money, but I can't eat it. So, and diabetics wouldn't be able to eat it. So I said no. And I really believe you've got to be authentic. Like, don't chase the dollar sign. So your product is really important, but more importantly, be authentic with that product. People is another P. I hired people that were hungry, humble, and had strong emotional intelligence. So I hired a lot of my friends. There was a big group of us women. There was no drama, surprisingly, because you think women, there's a lot of
Right.
drama, but there wasn't. We really were on a mission to get this product in front of a lot of people, and they treated it like it was their product. And we became a family. We called ourselves a cauliflower family. So I think it's really important that you are not unequally yoked, that you have people that have like minded values that work alongside of you, and make sure that they are hungry, that they are humble. If you get somebody in there that thinks they can be the next you or they can take over your business, that can cause a big problem. But then also, you need to surround your business with people that have done it and been there. So I have advisors and a board of people that have been in the food industry for years and years. And I look to them, I listen to them. They're huge. I've given them equity in the business. While they don't work directly for me, they're a very important part of my business and they're connected. So sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so I
Yeah.
believe whatever industry you're in there, open the door. You might think they're a competitor. No, open the door to them. You don't have to let them all the way in, but listen and learn from them. And it's amazing. Early on, one of my advisors, one of my top advisors came over to me. It was the first food show I'd ever been at, and he started asking me questions and I didn't know how to answer them. So instead of being humble and saying, hey, Bob, I don't understand what you're asking, I said, excuse me, I have to use the restroom. And I stayed in the restroom for like 15 minutes and then I went out the back door of the show and never saw him again. The next time I saw him, I knew the answers to those questions and I knew a lot more. It was like 6 months later at another food show. And I went up to him and he was very cold to me. And I said, look, I have to admit something to you. I ran away from you because I didn't know the answers. And he's like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. I thought you were just stuck up. And I was like, oh my gosh. I feel so you can't worry about that kind of thing. Like be humble, admit that you're new and use that to your advantage and people want to help. So people is very important. Perseverance. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. You have to there were so many days where we were getting so big so fast so quickly that I wasn't sleeping and I started having inflammation and it was like, oh my gosh, I've come full circle. I'm getting sick again. But I still got out of bed. Like you have to persevere. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad, and you've got to hang on to the good um, to get you through the bad. And so you got to persevere. If you don't have that in you to persevere and break through fear, then your business isn't going to make it. And then the final thing that I love, and I get to do it in a big way now, is paying it forward. So I've always donated to different charities. I've always been a part of the Lupus Foundation and American Diabetes Association. But now I get to do things in a very big way. Like I donated to my church more than my first house was. Things like that. Like it's allowed me to really pay it forward. I love to do any kind of talks. You know, a basketball team just asked me if I would talk to the girls on the basketball team. It can be something like that, or it can be, something big like on Dr. Oz or something. It doesn't matter to me. It's all equal. I love to share the story. I love to encourage people that if at the age of 46, I created this company, anybody can do anything. Trust me. Like I came in with not a lot of skill set, and we just did it. And a story I'd like to say too about perseverance is, going back to perseverance, is in 2018 I cost us $1 million in the company by a packaging mistake I made. What happened was I was just launched my cookbook because our consumers asked us for more recipes, so we wrote a cookbook. I just launched new products, and we were doing the packaging, and the buck stopped at me. Like I was the final person to review all the packaging, but I was in such a rush. I remember I was down in Beverly Hills. I was doing this whole panel thing with housewives of Beverly Hills and some of the bachelorettes. um, and so I was in my head about all of that. I was getting my hair and makeup done. I was just all caught up in all the glam, and I whizzed through the packaging, which was very important. Well, we got our macros wrong, and one of our loyal customers pointed it out. Well, we had all this packaging done, and I'm like, oh no, we're going to have to like get new packaging quickly. We're going to have to dump all that packaging, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. How are we going to do this? And I just realized, you know what? I've got a loyal following. I've got a community that cares. And if they truly care, they're going to accept that I made a huge mistake, that I let my ego get in the way, that I got too busy, and I made a mistake. And so I wrote a letter to my community and I said, this is my fault. This is not because my team was like, let's blame the packaging company. Let's say that they messed up. And I could have done that so easily. Nobody from the packaging company could have ever got into our social media to say that wasn't true. But I'm like, no, that's not true. And if they go away because I made a mistake and I'm owning it, then they were never meant to be to begin with, right? So our sales tanked when we made that mistake. I mean, tanked, went from like 70,000 a day to 15,000 a day overnight. So we wrote the letter, and even some of our competitors congratulated us for being authentic and truthful. Our competitors, like one of our really big ones, wrote to us and said, "Hey, that was amazing." And I just wrote a letter. My team edited it because I'm horrible with grammar. And I just said, I'm really sorry. This is on me. I made a mistake. We're going to try to make it right for you, but here's the true macros. And I'm so sorry. And our sales after that letter went skyrocketing beyond what we were doing on an average day. So I think, just persevering and again, being authentic, all those 5 things that I talked about, which again is product, being passionate, having a good product, surrounding yourself with good people, persevering no matter what, break through the fear, and paying it forward, your business will grow.
That I
Okay.
love that story. Oh my goodness.
There's
Well,
so
something
many stories.
well, something you've talked about and you've mentioned it a couple times is fear.
Hmm.
Fear and confidence. And a lot of us in midlife, we're still trying to sort of work through some of the stuff that has happened in our first half to try and help us with our second half. And fear and
Yeah.
confidence is real. And you actually say that you're an introvert, which is hard to imagine because, like you were saying earlier, you've been on Dr. Oz, you've been on so many different stages. So, what are your sort of tips and tricks to help break through the fear and help build your confidence?
Yeah. So I have an inner child that speaks to me all the time, and it's not good talk. I mean, I was a runaway at age 12. I lived in a foster home. I never did drugs, thank goodness. I think that's what saved me. but I had a lot of problems as a child. And I had a particular incident that happened to me that's happened to so many women that I wasn't able to get over. And so I had to learn how to turn that child voice off, that one that tells you that you're a loser and that you're not good enough. I had to turn that one off. And it sounds really easy, but it's not. It
Mhm.
is, I truly believe it's a habit. Like it's a habit. When I start hearing that voice, I write it down and then I write the opposite. No, you are worthy. You are good. You have experiences to share. You can inspire others that have been there in your same position that they can do something great. So the other big thing about fear, and it sounds simple, but it's so true. Do it. Just do it. Just do whatever it is that you're fearful of. And pretty soon, after a while, it no longer is fearful. So I remember the first time I got on stage, it was in Portland, Oregon at an event. There was about 150 people there. And oh my goodness, it was a disaster. I had slides to help me. It was a disaster. It was bad. And I look at that as such, but nobody in the audience thought it was bad. My slides got messed up. Nobody realized it. Nobody realized that it had gotten messed up. Only I realized it, and I just persevered through it. But that opened the door for me to realize, oh, it actually wasn't that bad. If I totally screwed up, my slides were all messed up, and I still was able to get through it, and I had a handful of people tell me how great it was, then imagine if it all went perfect, how amazing it really would be. I look at recently, I posted pictures of an event I did in 2019 for 400 women in Houston at a chamber event. I was having a major lupus attack, right? 2018 had been this huge year for us, and 2019 was even bigger. And I look at those pictures and I think, wow, I was super inflamed and super sick. But I went on stage anyways, and I looked like I weighed like a couple 100 pounds because I just was trying to give myself a quick fix of steroids to get through it and get the pain down. And I did it anyways. I went up there, and I still today have people from that event reaching out to me. So, what you think seems really, really bad, nobody else realizes it. And if you just get through it, you'll be amazed at how strong it will make you. So, you just have to break through the fear. And people are like, "You're not an introvert." I'm like, "Well, in college, how I made it to college, I don't know. But in college, I had a speaking class. And I remember the first time I had to do a speech, my knees started buckling. And I had to stop because I was going to fall. I mean, it was buckling. My voice was cracking. And I remember some of the kids were laughing, and the teacher felt so bad. And I thought, okay, that has never happened to me again. After that time, I had to do speeches to pass that class. That never happened again. That was like the worst thing that could have ever happened. But I got through it. It's done. It's over. And probably nobody but myself remembers that. So I think it's just really important to get rid of the negative self talk. The day that you're going to do whatever it is that you're fearful of, talk to yourself in the greatest way possible. Write yourself little sticky notes all over your mirror when you're getting ready. I go in the bathroom before I speak. I have a little cross. I pray. I meditate. I try to take really deep breaths because I feel like that helps me not have a croaky or cracked voice. The deep breaths right before I go on. And then I just kind of visualize myself nailing it. And I always tell myself, it doesn't matter if I mess up. Nobody will know that I messed up. And if I do mess up, like I did on that packaging, and somebody calls me out on it, I just say, hey, yeah, I made a mistake. It, you know, thank you for pointing it out to me. Thank you for having grace and allowing me to fix that mistake. I mean, people really, we're so scared of each other, and I've learned that
Mm.
people really want to help other people. They, the, people do. They just want to help other people. And good people, bad people, people want to help other people.
Well, it's interesting too that you say that you had that first speaking that the slides were wrong. It wasn't how you wanted it to be, but people still learned from it. And then the chamber event where you had the steroids and the people wanted to hear your message. And I think when you think about the people you're serving and not think about yourself, that helps your whole thought process, right? Really can make a difference. So I can't believe we're coming to the end of our interview. But I have to ask you, if someone wants to start a business, if they have a great idea, but they're kind of paralyzed, they don't know where to start, they don't know how to get started, what would you suggest for them to do?
So I suggest taking one person that is your ideal audience, client, person to try that product. Think about that one person. Is it your one of your family members? Is it a friend? And focus on that one person and their needs and see how they respond to it. Test it out. Don't be afraid of it. That's an easy way to get past being paralyzed. Think of the one ideal client, the person that you can help. And maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a friend's parent, maybe it's a relative, but try helping that one person with your service or your product and see how they respond. Now, if it's an epic failure, I recommend trying it on somebody else. I recommend doing it on a few people, but start with one so you're not overwhelmed. Start with one. And the process takes a while. I started creating the cauliflower pizza crust early on, 2013. We started sharing it at healthy happy hours when I was health and life coaching in 2014. 2015 is when I started doing licensing and the cottage licensing. And then 2016 is when I took it to farmers market. 2017 when we launched it on e-com. So a lot of people, I say, well, we got this far in 24 months, but it was a process leading up to it. We were testing it on a lot of people. Our plan wasn't to take it to market, it was just to help serve people. But you're so spot on when you say, when you get out of your own way and you're there to serve people and not serve yourself, that's huge. That is a huge way. So think about your business or your service or your product. Think about who it could help that's close to you, that'll be really truthful to you. My family, my parents did not support me in the beginning. They were like, "Why are you doing this? You have 3 kids. Like, you're taking so much time from them." It wasn't until it started making millions of dollars that all these family members came out. Were like, "Oh, we want to help you." No, I'm
Now
kidding,
you're
but I'm not.
brilliant.
I mean, seriously, I didn't have a lot of support in the beginning until people realized that, oh, this could be a thing. But I still tested it on all of them. I still had them eat it. I still had them try it. I asked for feedback, and it did sway the way that I went and when I went. So, yeah, try it on somebody. Think about that ideal person. That's my advice.
I love that. Thank you so much, Amy. So, if someone would like to get a hold of you, in contact with you, and learn more, how can they get in contact with you?
So I am controlling my own social media. So patience if you reach out and I don't get back to you right away. But you can DM me. You can reach out on heyamylacey.com. I have a Calendly. It's completely booked up right now, but you can reach out to me through there. The other way, um, if you want to try our products, you can go to cauliflowerfoods.com, order products. You can go to my website and order through me and get 20% off. If you DM me, chances are I'll probably send you free products. So that's probably the best way on Instagram, or message me on Facebook
Oh, that
or
is
LinkedIn.
great. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Well, I'll have all the links in the details of the show notes. So, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for knowing so much about me. That was amazing. I do a lot of podcasts and people don't ever bring up some of the stuff you brought up. So it was kind of fun to change the subject a little bit.
Oh, great. Thank you.